What's going on, fellow Defenders fans? It is September 2nd, Labor Day. It is the start of a new month. So let's recap how my roster did over the past month. The roster I presented in my last video. So I want to do that. I want to talk about some potential changes, reactions to meta, and then spend the majority of this video talking about the Asgard matchup because it's a tough one. A lot of people are having problems with it. I think it presents a problem to most of the players in this game, but uniquely, I think they're very well suited against Daredevil defenders, and I'll get into that. But let's start just going over the roster. So this is the roster I presented last month. I played 7 ranked matches this month. Went 6-1, so can't complain about that. It performed pretty well, pretty consistently. That was between the Salt Lake City Open in Utah, which that was a really fun event, well run. TOs were great. Shout out to everyone out there. Met some cool people, and everyone was super nice. So if you ever have a chance to get some matches in out in northern Utah, there's a good group of folks out there. The rest of the games were in the lunch meet online event that was running this month. I did fairly well there. Ran through some Canadians, but got dunked by the King Canadian Curtis. Turns out he's pretty good at this game. So I lost in that final. Good game. Made some mistakes. Wish I had back, but it was a very good game overall. Had a lot of fun. And like I said, 6-1 for the month. Can't be too upset about that. So with that said, I don't really feel the need to make a ton of changes to this roster at the moment, but I am going to make some slight changes. My model count here, obviously Daredevil, most taken at 7 all games. Shang-Chi and Wong come in next at 5 each. Namor, 4 games. And then we have the drop-off that starts. We go Luke Cage, Hulk, and Miles all came in at 2 games. ASM, Ghost Rider, and Dynamo all slotted in for 1 game. I still like all of them. I think I think the bottom 3 they're my more situational models that come out very specific threat levels and scenarios, and I just did not pull those too often. I did have like ASM. I mainly bring on pay to flips and specifically Mutant Madmen. And I think I pulled that twice out of these 7 games, and I actually only brought him once because one of them was too low threat. Like what was it? I think it was Madman Researcher. So like I couldn't comfortably fit him in and still feel like I could uh, contest the Researcher reliably. So he didn't come out for that one. Ghost Rider and Dynamo, I believe, were in the same game, which was a Demons game. I don't remember if it was 19 or 20 threat, but like Ghost Rider is here for Demons for the most part, and Dynamo on an E-map. Ghost Rider performed really well that game. Got a lot of good chip damage with Wicked's Judgment. I think I got a good pennant stare in on there. Scored some points, so performed well. Dynamo, Dynamo's fine. I like what he does. He's obviously a great model. That's not up for debate anymore. I don't think I'm getting as much of that slot as I would like. I think I need, or I guess maybe not need, but want someone a bit more flexible in that spot than an E-shape specialist, considering I'm already fairly good on that with the rest of my team. So I think he's probably going to be my drop for now. He could come in again in the future, but I think he's on the way out. I do want another 4 threat in that slot. And last time I believe I mentioned I was kind of waffling between him, Ancient One, and a few others. I don't recall if I mentioned Agent Venom at that point or not. But I am going to go ahead and slot in Agent Venom for now. Give him a whirl. Uh, and on top of that, the only other change will be I'm going to put Cleanup in here, which is his card that he can play with Peter Parker. Um, that'll replace Pentagrams because I am just not using it. I like this card a lot when I can get them both on the table at the same time, which is fairly likely at on a Mutant Madman game at 18 threat or higher. Fairly easy to slot both of them in, and they both do good things there. Um, so that should come up here and there. Um, Other reasons I'm going with Agent Venom right now, kind of a reaction to the meta. There are some positives and negatives in that respect, but I think the positives outweigh the negatives for me right now. Um, Agent Venom is, I like everything on his card. I think he's a super good character in most situations. Obviously, the 2 energy defense is a bit of a problem in certain matchups. You just don't take him at those times. Um, I like he should do well with the leadership because he does have out of action movement with the web swing. I think if you're utilizing him effectively with the leadership, if you're trying to get the most out of the leadership, then you're probably playing him a lot more aggressive in this list than you would in most of the other places that you usually see him, which is fine. Again, as long as you're not throwing him in the middle of like a bunch of energy attacks that are going to eat him. Like he's 4 physical, 3 mystic, so he shouldn't like just immediately die as long as you're not going crazy with him. Everything on his card is good. The removal of special conditions is great. The throw is something that I kind of need right now. Not a lot of my roster doesn't have like on-demand throws anymore now that like Wolverine's gone from the spender. So he'll be helpful in that regard, and I'll get into why I want more throws later as well. Auto Incinerate, his spender is amazing for the types of games we like to do with bunched up folks. But the number one thing on his card in regard to the meta right now is the not modifying defense dice. Obviously, it's good against webs, who I actually think are a little bit on the downswing right now because of the rotation and stuff like that. But they're still going to be around. They're super popular. Everyone likes webs, so that can come in handy there. But what I'm seeing a lot of right now and expect to continue seeing is the Invaders leadership with Namor in Shield. People doing defensive reroll bubbles with him, the leadership, and Zemo, giving everyone like 3 defensive rerolls. It seems really strong. It seems popular. So Agent Venom seems like a good pick into that. He also shouldn't worry too much most of the time against like energy on them. Like I guess the main probably most consistent threat to him there is like Howling Commandos, which I mean if that's all they've got, then that's not dissuading me from bringing Agent Venom probably. So I think he's a good pick into them. So I like that. On the flip side, I don't like him into the meta monster right now, which is Asgard, and the focus of this video in a few moments. Obviously, the 2 energy defense. Thor eats a lot of things, and he's going to eat Agent Venom fairly immediately. So probably just don't bring him against them unless, I don't know, maybe it's like a spread map, like with a Jane leader, and I can just hopefully keep him away from Thor. I don't know. Haven't run into that situation, but that's why he's slotting in right now. We'll see how that feels. I've wanted to try him out in Defenders for a while, so double whammy there for me. So hopefully that goes decently. That's all the roster stuff I've got right now. Everything else is feeling pretty good. I continue to feel really good about Cover Me. Ghost Rider, Namor, Luke, everyone's getting pretty good mileage out of that when I can force the situation, get attacks into my cover me target, especially if the person getting those attacks happens to be lucky enough to be Shang-Chi, because fishing for those staggers, getting those extra pushes, or like on his flip side, the heal from the fist out of activation, all of that can be super, super backbreaking to an opponent. Um, so I think that's fairly safe. I continue to think Mystic Ward is a really good card, used in the right situations, which I have definitely misused that. There's a good case of me misusing that on the Lunch Meat final. If you want to go watch that on Lucas's channel, you can watch me make a pretty big mistake with that. Street Smarts is still incredibly good, especially with Hulk Researcher. Keep them locked down. Um, I do go back and forth on it a little bit, just because, like, a lot of times when I play it, I find that um, like maybe I just actually want to let them throw me if they're just throwing me into terrain, so then I at least get the power for it because I'm going to take the damage either way. Stuff like that. So it's kind of an awkward card sometimes, but it is good if you just need to stay put, obviously. And it's good for not being used as a bowling ball. So all of that's staying in. Let's get to the Asgard matchup because that's on everyone's minds. Um, these guys are dumb. That's my thoughts on it. But more in depth. Um, yeah, I think Loki's leadership is insane. Um, it's I think it's good generally. It is a good general leadership, but it is really, really good when he can maximize the pity damage. That's really what they want to be going for when they're playing the Loki leader. And unfortunately, I think that matches up incredibly well against defenders. I've played about 6-ish games, half a dozen, somewhere in there, against these guys, against New Asgard, and every single matchup has been Loki leader. Doesn't matter what the threat is. It's always been Loki lead, and I think that there is a good reason for that. And I think it's not because Jane is bad. I've heard people say good things about her. I have zero experience playing her or playing into her, but looking at her card, she looks fine. And she, I'm sure, excels much more than Loki on like spread maps, stuff like that. Because Loki wants to have like a centralized fight where he can stay semi-safe, be within 3 of his buddies, and continually chip you with the pity damage. So I think that's why I've seen so much Loki, is because they want to play the exact same game that Daredevil defenders want to play. So I think if you're playing into an Asgard matchup and they have the option of what leader they're going to take, if they understand what their team is trying to do and they understand what your team likes to do, then there is zero reason they would probably ever pick anyone other than Loki lead. So we're just going to have to figure out a way to deal with this. Fun. They bring basically the same secures as us, like tight things, gamma, demons, meteors, all that type of stuff. So it doesn't matter who's getting prio. Like, it's gonna be that shape. It's not gonna be spread. Like, I guess with mine, maybe if I got lucky enough to get prio and pull Madmen, maybe I wouldn't have to deal with Loki. That hasn't happened yet. But I think the grand majority of the time, I'm gonna be dealing with Loki. So how do we deal with it? We have to do a lot of hoping things go our way, because this team, they can do most of what they want to do early on fairly reliably, and it's just out the gate really, really oppressive. I have personally played like 4 games with them, and my goodness, it if your opponent isn't ready to somehow try to mitigate what you're able to do going into round 2, if they have no plan to stop it, they're just gonna get steamrolled unless your dice are, unless you have the worst luck in the world. Things are going to die because you're just throwing buckets of dice, and you're forced to make like awful decisions pretty damn quickly. Um, and playing it, I honestly felt bad. Like it felt like I was insulting my opponent. Like the way the leadership works, I'm popping brothers in arms. I'm doing 10 die builders with Thor. I'm getting like 7 successes after crits and rerolls on average probably, and like depending what I'm attacking, right? Like they're probably just falling over. And on top of it, I'm like, okay, I got 7 or 8 successes. You're dead. I guess I'll just do this reroll to give Loki a power since I'm gonna be full anyway. Like it's honestly kind of insulting in its play pattern. And while funny, like it was kind of depressing. So anyway, off of that, how do we deal with it? Um, Asgard is pretty much always going to have priority. Like unless you're bringing something like a Namor Hulk, Daredevil base to where you can try to go as tall as them. And like have some semblance of maintaining priority. I don't know. They're probably going to have priority. Um, so I don't know how I feel about Hulk into them in general. I haven't tried it. I just imagine that it's not good because of how many dice Thor throws. Bill is good into Hulk. I mean, even Loki is slinging some Mystic at him, which isn't great. It's the least threatening thing. But between these two heavy hitters on Hulk and pity damage, I can't imagine Hulk lasts long in any setup. Um, so I don't like that. So I've been going like Namor Shang-Chi, or like I think Shang-Chi is the key piece in this matchup, and you just have to hope things go well and go well pretty much out off the rip. Um, a lot of times when I'm bringing like this setup, for example, and I'm just talking about like a 15 threat game because I think that it's fairly likely that you get 15 threat into them with both players running 15 threat things in their roster most of the time. And I think that they pretty much just build from here, as do I, depending on if it's a higher threat with a different extract, whatever it might be, right? Um, so I think this is a good base to just build on the matchup and learn it from. But like in a general sense, you need to stay alive. It's very hard to do. So you need to mitigate what they're able to do round one, and hope that you can slow down their round two. And then if you can do that, then maybe you have a decent shot at pulling off a win. So how does that happen? The way I've been doing it is like a general flow of the game. If it's an extract, like not researcher, right? Like I'm probably starting out with a Namor, and I'm probably just grabbing it and coming back. If I don't have prio, obviously I'm not doing that. Depending on what they do, they might not actually come up and grab it. Like they might be comfortable with sitting Bill there and holding whatever it is and just being happy. They might not. Um, but in general, I'm going to safe grab. I'm going to come back. I'm going to try to limit the attacks that they can do into me round one, because they have some good reach here. Um, they're probably going to activate a Loki. He's going to come up to something like this so that he can be in 3 of his pals standing at the midline and be semi-safe, right? So we're just going to play this stalling game now. So Wong is probably he's going to meditate at least once, and then he's going to hand a power to someone. And in this situation, like Namor's already gone, or even if he hasn't, like if they went up and grabbed, like I think the majority of the time, like 99% of the time in this matchup, you need to give the power to Shang-Chi, and I'll get into that as we move on. But you're going to want to turn Shang-Chi's charge on. And then you want to think about what the rest of this round is going to look like, because it's not insignificant what you're doing with Wong here. a lot of people like just think it's pass a power, move on to the secure. Well, like if Namor came back already and he's on the secure, I don't need to do that. So like really I should be thinking about this from deployment. Like as long as I deployed Wong within 2 of this shelter and he's not going to take free gamma damage, I just want to meditate to get another power because that's going to be the difference next round if he gets an activation and the positionings work out. That's the difference between him being able to heal 2 or heal 1 and remove a condition, as opposed to only being able to help out one person. That can be a big deal in a matchup like this where you really need to survive, and like chip damage is a major factor. So if at all possible, I'm probably leaving Wong off of the secure, double meditating, giving Shang-Chi a power. Then they're probably going to go with Bill. Like we're saving Big Boy Thor for last activation. Thor, if Bill's not already up here, he's probably coming up here now and sitting on a midpoint. Because this is where Bill wants to be at the start of 2. Because he wants Thor up here so that they can just start dumping into you with brothers in arms. At least that's the play pattern I've experienced. So I'm going to go with Daredevil. And again, this is something that's not insignificant. If I left Wong off and I didn't happen to bring Namor back onto whatever back secure is back here, like I can bring Daredevil up, and I can like stand here and choose to throw a baton and try to maybe pull Bill in closer, or I can still be like maximum safe and just stay back home. And there's going to be reasons for that. So, and it's going to depend on what they did with Loki. If during Loki's activation he decided to go maximum, let's just face roll this, he probably used Go Forth on Thor. So Thor's already here before he activates. If I come up to 4 of Bill and I'm tossing a baton into him, I am making it so that Thor can get an attack in round 1. Because he can obviously get there. If he did not go forth, then he's still like, I'm pretty sure he cannot attack me because he's on 2 power. He's gonna have to double move. So action 1 and then action 2, come on the point or wherever he wants to be to set himself up for what he wants to do round 2. So if they go forth, I'm probably going to think quite a bit about whether or not it's worth it for me to try to pull Bill off of the secure. It's probably not. So maybe Daredevil's just staying back here, being happy that he's not getting attacked. This makes it so that Asgard doesn't get an attack round 1, which is good. And you're going to get last activation. Now, depending where they positioned their Thor, this is the key of setting yourself up for success right here in this matchup, in my experience. You're going to want to walk and then charge with Shang-Chi. If you can be on the point, great. You know, depending what the point is. If it's a demons, I'm not going to stand on that point. If it's gamma, I'm going to stand on it, whatever. But I'm only going to stand on it if I can be within 2 of both Thor and Bill. Because I need this roll to go well. And there's tiers to how well this can go. If it whiffs completely, I should be clear, I'm attacking Bill here. And the reason for that is I don't want to immediately eat 7 dice to the face from Thor's trap if he chooses to do that. I also don't want to give this guy any more power than he's already going to start round 2 with. And the whole idea behind this is going to be to try to power starve Thor for as long as possible. So if my attack into Bill whiffs and I get 0 power, this is going to be an incredibly rough game. I think chances of winning really, really drop severely. So you want 1 power. That is at a minimum what you want. That way you can use your 5 elements fist, and hopefully there is some terrain back here that you can push Thor into to eat a stun. Uh, you want to try to go like max distance to mess him as much as possible, but the number one priority is hitting the terrain. So don't inch yourself off to try to try for an extra millimeter and then accidentally miss the terrain. Hit the terrain, get the stun, and then uh, that way he's only starting the next round on 3 power. That will limit what he can do, because uh, now if they want a brothers in arms right away, then it's going to be diminished pretty severely, because Thor's going to have to walk. So he's going to have to waste an action walking. Then he's going to play it, and he's only going to get 1 10-die attack. That is a win if that happens. Alternatively, if he decides to, hopefully you are able to push him max and get the stun. And he can't just throw himself into you. But most of the time, I think you're going to have to like get the compromise. He's going to start on 3 power. If he chooses that he wants to throw himself into Shang-Chi, you're going to have to make the decision whether or not you want to brace that right away and like hedge your bet that you survive 2 7-die builders. Because it's a tough choice, because like if he's stunned and he's going to attack you twice and he just spent his 3 power, you're not eating another throw. He can only build 2 more power. So like if Shang-Chi lives through that, it's amazing. If he doesn't, it's not the end of the world. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So that was if you get 1 power. If you get more, you're just happy. But I guess it's not a power level thing at this point. If you get the stagger into Bill at the same time as pushing Thor, you're in super good shape. They're going to be sad. Hopefully you didn't eat any pity damage, but you probably did. You probably rolled a skull in that attack. Who knows? I guess it was only 1 attack, so maybe not. But if you stagger Bill, stun Thor, and prevent their brothers in arms from going off round 2 right away, you're in good shape, because now you can start to play this game where if your characters are living, if the dice are not super mean to you, then you can disrupt everything they want to do for a good while. Like, especially with Shang-Chi. His pushes are the key to winning this matchup. Because the outside of the ridiculous round 2 that you're trying to avoid, you need to be hyper aware of Loki's pity damage. I've talked about it before. Our characters rely on our defensive tech when we roll dice. Like Shang-Chi and Daredevil have 5 health. It's not a lot. But they have great defensive tech when they roll dice. Generally, they're counting blanks. Namor, he gets his reroll. They rely on dice. Pity damage, Thor trap damage, all of these diceless things that are just fairly consistent for this team. They're very, very, very bad for us. So we need to disrupt that as much as possible. So it's harder to do at low threats when you're already like you have few tools to manage the big threat of Thor and Bill and trying to keep them separated and all of that nonsense. But if you have the chance, and it's easier at high threats with more tools, but if Shang-Chi is alive and he's able to like really get in the mix here, like Loki's back here trying to stay safe and pity you to death. If you're able to get an activation with him into the middle of some folks, charge, hit your whatever your target is, and then push Loki away, that's incredible. Because Loki's pity damage is measured off of the ally, and this push most of the time is able to get a Loki out of 3 of their allies. So that happens before he's able to pity you. It's your effect as the attacker happening before his effect as the defender. So you can turn off pity damage if you're able to control the positioning of Loki. And I think that's hyper important to actually being able to survive this matchup. so much so that I think it changes order of operations in a lot of situations. Like if I know I mentioned like not bringing Agent Venom against a team like this, but like if you have a character with a throw, um, then it 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 could be worth it if like he's in the position to just use that throw before he starts attacking, just use that throw to get Loki the hell out of town and then start doing your double tapping and whatever else you're going to do on your activation, just so that you're not eating that free damage. Uh, I think that's really good. Because our leadership too is you have to if you're not able to mitigate that pity damage, our leadership just like actively hurts us sometimes. Like okay, I've especially when you're attacking Loki. I want to touch on that because like sometimes you say okay, I'm gonna do my two rerolls that I have here, and you know Loki's still here or wherever he is, and you had no skulls before, and you re-roll into a skull, and now you take a damage, right? Like that's not great. It's awful. It's absolutely awful when attacking into Loki because then he counts those skulls, so he pities you, and you get further away from the result you were trying to achieve. Um, Attacking this guy directly is awful. It's a wild card. I don't recommend it just because of the skulls and re-rolling into skulls. I've had situations where like I have had to, I felt like I need to kill Loki, and I've attacked him, and I was like, okay, I'm one damage off. I have two re-rolls. Let me do them, and I re-rolled into two skulls. All of a sudden, I'm doing no damage, and I'm taking a damage. Um, it's awful. So like target prioritization in this matchup sucks because like you don't want to attack Loki directly for that reason. You don't really want to attack Thor directly for again the chip damage reason. Like getting pitied and then him getting even just like two successes on 7 dice to trap you back is you're taking 3 damage from your own attack. It's terrible. So like I know Bill isn't the easiest thing in the world to kill, but he's probably the safest target and the I don't know easiest to remove, especially with Namor around, ignoring his DR. Like hopefully you just get him before he gets you, that type of situation. Um, I like for that chip damage reason, I'm always going to be super hesitant to attack into Thor. I will say, like if you're able to get that stun on him early and they don't like deal with it, and they don't shake it, and they just leave it on, like they just try to face roll you through it, which is totally a thing. Um, then at that point, I'm probably much more likely to go into Thor because if he's power starved and he decides to spend 3 on trapping me and he goes down to 0, like I guess that's a win. Hopefully it just whiffs, but at least then he's down to 0 and he's probably taken a couple damage. I don't know. It sets you up for future success maybe. But in general, like I think I like my general game plan is just to target Bill uh, early and often and try to control this team with pushes and staggers and use that to survive. If I can position Wong and keep him alive to where he can uh, help me out with some heals here and there, that's fantastic. Daredevil is rough because obviously like Loki just walking in and spindering, it doesn't feel good for Daredevil. So it's a very tough matchup for a lot of reasons, and it's unfortunate that they are at their best when they're playing the game that we like to make people play. Um, but I really do think success goes way up if your chances of success go way up if your Shang-Chi activation early on can do at least one of these two things in stunning Thor and staggering Bill. Um, you're setting yourself up pretty decently there. But that's been my experience. Again, it's like a half dozen games into them. I have no doubt I will get more. I would love to hear from other people if they have different experiences or if they've found like some splash model that makes dealing with this a lot easier, some sort of tool that I'm not talking about here, please, like mention in the comments or like message me on Discord or something, because these schmoes have like a 60% win rate right now, or something stupid like that, and we need to do our best to bring that down. That's all I've really got right now. Again, leave a comment. I always appreciate the feedback. Like, subscribe, all that nonsense. Um, and I'm working on some stuff for future videos to make them a little bit more interesting, and do stuff outside of like just a TTS screen that I randomly move my mouse around while I talk. That's all I'll say, so that it'll be a little bit of a surprise. But yeah, hopefully that's all ready to go by the time I make my next video. And yeah, I'll catch you all later.